Cynthia Usoro. In our previous video, we discussed about the motives behind European venturing into Africa, and I made mentions of 6.6 reasons why they came to Africa. So today we are going to discuss about the era of slave trade and its impact in Africa. So if you're just watching this video, you're welcome to my YouTube channel where we discuss history and lifestyle. So what you do for me is kindly subscribe, hit on the notification bell so that you can always be notified whenever I post new video. Like I said, this channel is going to be educative, informative, and we are going to learn from each other. So anytime I post new video, kindly put in your contribution on the comment section or any question you need to ask. Thank you. In the previous episode, you discovered that the last point I made why European ventured into Nigeria was the quest for manpower labor to work on their plantation. Crops that were cultivated in this plantation where the transported the slave from Africa to the New World were cocoa, tobacco, cotton, and sugar. And it is also important for us to note the difference between trans-Saharan trade and transatlantic slave trade, because these two words are often being intertwined. So trans-Saharan trade took place between North Africa and West Africa. Countries under North Africa that participated in the trans-Saharan trade was Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and in the West Africa, the country involved was Nigeria, Ghana, Togo, and Niger Republic. Africa, the goods exchanged or traded to West Africa were horses, books, and sword, while in the West Africa we exchanged their items with gold, salt, ivory, and clothes. The trans-Saharan trade also had its impacts in West Africa. One of the impacts is the introduction of Islamic religion in especially Nigeria. But this is a story for another day. We are going to discuss that one in another episode. But right now we are going to be focusing on slave trade. So we talked about the trans-Saharan trade, and we are going to be talking about transatlantic slave trade. I was trying to differentiate the both of them. So the transatlantic slave trade is the transportation of Africans in large numbers to the New World. Yes, New World include France, Spain, Denmark, Britain, Barbados, Haiti, and many more. You should understand that slave trade already existed before the 16th century and 17th century when the European came to Nigeria, and there were also reasons why Nigerians participated in this slave, which we are going to discuss. So let's dive into this topic. There are three major tribes in Nigeria called Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, and the Yoruba people. The Igbo traditionally maintained the Osu caste system of the ordinary religion. Osu were people who were regarded as spiritually inferior, and they were segregated from the regular Igbo society. Osu were either kept as slaves or sold into slave trade. Only people from Nri didn't practice slavery, making slaves flee to this land, for instance, freedom. This happened during the 16th century. The Igbo people practice indentured servitude, meaning that slave will serve a number of years and will later be free. So it is also important for us to note that while the Igbo practice indentured servitude, the European practice chattel slavery, meaning that slaves were owned as properties. Sokoto Caliphate was a powerful region located in the northern Nigeria. It is important to note that Islamic religion was widely practiced in this region, and estimated 1 to 2 million non-Muslim slaves were captured during the Fulani War. Slaves captured during this Fulani War was subjugated to working in their plantation. They became slaves. So they were only allowed for freedom, or they were only allowed to be free conditionally if they accepted to be converted to Islam. Owning slaves was a status symbol in Yoruba society. A Yoruba person who owned slaves displayed sign of being wealthy and influential person. Slaves were typically captured during territorial expansion, internal and intertribal war. If a town captured another in a war, the captured people would become enslaved by their captors. Slaves typically worked for powerful elites of Yoruba society, and they were tasked with farm cultivation, clearing land, or other personal purposes. So there were few reasons why Nigeria participated in slave trade, which I'm going to outline one after the other. So number one point is that the Yoruba elites, such as the powerful kings, wealthy merchants, and warriors, saw slave trade as a very profitable source of income. Yes. So number two is that the powerful merchants from other regions, like foreign merchants, collide with Nigerian merchants, and they exchanged, like they used what they have to exchange for slave. Like they used mirror, they used gun, they used clothes to exchange for slave. Number three is that the powerful kings of this community, like the three major tribes we already mentioned, Igbo, Hausa, and the Yoruba, the chiefs used the medium of slave trade to eradicate bad people in the society. Like, for example, the thieves. So when somebody steals, they sell the person out for slave. Stubborn people that gives their parents headache, they sold them out for slave to trade. And also people that they saw as witchcraft. Back then they so much believe in witchcraft. They said there's a power, that is so wicked and all that. So, and also people that were possessed by the marine spirits, they were also banished. Like, instead of banishing them out of the society, they send them to slave. There is also a term called Iwura in the Yoruba land. This is the voluntary handover of a person from one family to another as a collateral. And when the loan is paid, they can then return this person. But during slave trade, this did not happen, because if you give someone out as a collateral, the person may be sold off into slavery. In Igbo land, there is also an oracle that resided in the cave called the Afa. So this Afa was the divinity that actually had the final say over anything that happened in the land. So if there is a case of abomination or adultery, it is this Afa that will predict on what will happen. So the priestess or the priest in charge of this Afa was manipulated by the British. So instead of them to banish this person, like for example, if someone committed adultery, usually you send the person out of the land, or you send the person to evil forest. But during slave trade, since they were already influenced by the British, they couldn't send the person to be banished or to the evil forest. Rather, they sold these people to slavery. Lastly was kidnapping process. the roads were no longer safe, the way to the stream, to when you're farming, it was no more safe. People will be going out in troops, in numbers, to avoid being kidnapped. And this really happened in the Bonny and the Calabar region of Nigeria. So slave trade is really a broad or large topic to discuss, so we are going to break it down bit by bit. So we'll keep a pause for now in this episode, and then the next episode we'll discuss about the transporting of slaves, how they transported to the New World, and also the effects, the impact, the aftermath of slave trade in Nigeria. Thank you for watching this channel. See you in my next video. Bye bye.